assault argument was the worst one to me as a survivor, but I've heard you talk about it, so I know where you're coming from. It did sound like you relied on court cases for assault, which is ass, but watching your previous VODs, I know where you stand. No, I'm gonna get to that in a second as well. Because if you noticed, he did something very nefarious there. He basically, I'll get to that, hold on. But the short and sweet of it on that one was the shocking display of disingenuousness from Ethan on that part, where he said that I was denying the atrocity propaganda that Israel has committed when saying that Hamas-directed systematic mass took place on October 7. This is atrocity propaganda that is not new. This has happened throughout all kinds of settler colonial conquest. This is what the American settlers said about the indigenous population, right? This is what the Klan said about black people. This is always like, you have to dehumanize your opponent in order to justify to the rest of the people that like the violence that you are going to subject them to is totally permissible. They're savages. They're barbaric savages. It is a trope for a particular reason. It is unironically the weaponization of sexual assault. The reason why I also found it particularly gross was because he demonstrated that he didn't even care about what I was saying, or he didn't even care about what anyone was saying in that regard. Simply was just like, oh, you're going to speak over this victim? You're going to speak over this victim? When in fact, the video that he showed of me prior to the victim speaking out was literally me recognizing said victim. There's never been a moment where I've said that there was that took place, that especially after October 7. I've always maintained the position that there is a likelihood this assaults might have happened on October 7. But the problem here is that Israel has actually destroyed the evidence and made it impossible. And his counter to that was, oh, out of the dignity for the victims, there was no time for forensic examination. And that's ridiculous because you want justice to be served for the victims. That's what I was saying. I wasn't saying like it's not unless it's like prosecutable in court, pics or it didn't happen. And that's what a lot of people are saying in terms of my conversation around circumstantial evidence. The circumstantial evidence in this regard is not the same kind of circumstantial evidence you see in criminal litigation in an American court. This is a preliminary investigation that is supposed to open up the door to a full-blown investigation by the United Nations. That investigation has been blocked of Israel. That is what I was maintaining here. And the reason why it's important to note that is because a lot of the circumstantial evidence that they've actually brought forward in the UN report by Israel's own admission has now been undermined through forensic examination. I'll give you an example. It's like when you saw these gruesome images, from October 7, and people pointed to them to say like, no, this person has been. And then those people, the ones that weren't actually killed in the process, came out and said that that did not happen to them. This directly undermines and showcases the importance of going beyond circumstantial evidence in terms of like analysis of footage. Okay, especially when considering that there was plenty of atrocities that took place on October 7. I've never discounted that. It is one of the most horrifying live streamed massacres before what Israel did, of course, which is infinitely more horrifying than October 7, considering what Israel's been doing is a systematic, full-blown execution of all Palestinians and their lives in the Gaza Strip with significantly more sophisticated machinery. But having said that, considering that this was almost entirely live streamed, there was a lot of evidence that instantly undermined secondhand accounts that took place on that day. But like I said, as far as Ethan utilizing this, like weaponizing sexual assault, it was so insane to me that he went to that length, especially considering that I'm of course going to be amenable to hearing his position on this if there's something that I'm oblivious to in terms of all of the reading that I have done on the mass systematized conducted by Hamas on October 7. But the worst part of this was he actually showcased the claims made by someone who I also have recognized, who I've never actually undermined the testimony of. Amit Shoshana, I believe, is her name. And the victim that he pointed to was one that I had actually talked about in the video that he showed. Prior to that. And then he claimed that she actually had been sexually assaulted on October 7. It was one of the victims from October 7. This is an important distinction to make. And he basically tried to present this as like, he tried to present this as like me denying, when in fact, I was talking about a totally different subject. When people say believe all women, that's the whole point of Me Too, is to not reflexively disbelieve women, because that's precisely what people do. There's never been a moment where I've reflexively disbelieved a victim that came out. My question to Ethan was, who are these victims? What are their names that have come out? Because you might know something that I do not know from all of the things that I have read on this matter. And yet he actually didn't, if you noticed, he actually didn't bring forward any names with the exception of the firsthand account testimony of someone who I had also recognized. And the secondary position that I have maintained always, which Ethan at a certain point also recognized that he went back on, is the fact that even if there's an endless amount of evidence and it's like verifiable, there have been massacres that took place, Israel's reaction is still unjustifiable. You cannot do a genocide. You cannot do a genocide on an entire population that you are the belligerent occupier of because militancy in that process conducted assaults. That is completely unacceptable. Nothing will make genocide acceptable. That is my position. That has always been my position.